Today, Tuesday, the 3rd of February, a US ship shot down an Iranian drone on the grounds that it was getting too close. Is this the beginning of something far more deadly and dangerous for the world? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Thank you again. Please like, comment, subscribe, and give us a thumbs up. And you'll find all the links for the guests in the description below. Hey, Blaine. Hey, Mel. Thank you so much for making yourselves available once again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. And let's start with you, Blaine, because you are a retired general. So what is going on? What happened?
So let me give you my very sophisticated technical Air Force pilot answer to your question, because it's a very deep question. Um, is this the start of a bigger war? Nah, no chance. I think what you saw with what you're seeing, what you're seeing with the drone being launched at a United States ship is not a unified effort on the behalf of the Iranians. The Iranians right now, the leadership is basically negotiating their end. They're negotiating, how are we going to get out of this with a pension package, and nobody wants to come kill us after we leave our murderous regime posts. And so then why launch a drone at a United States ship only to know what the outcome's going to be? This is rogue elements of the IRGC, I believe, this is my opinion, that have gone renegade because here's what they know. If that regime leaves and exiles themselves someplace like in sunny Kabul, one of the exciting places in the new Bashar al-Assad subdivision outside of Moscow, if that occurs, then the leadership of the IRGC knows that they are dead men walking, and their only ploy now is going to be to create a false flag, maybe create a dust up, maybe get an incursion with a U.S. ship, and try to handcuff the mullahs to stay right there, because once the mullahs have fled, and they will flee, then you'll have an Iranian people that's looking at the besiege, and they're looking at the IRGC saying, "You did this to us, and you murdered thousands of us, and now it's coming." Now, the mainstream media is going to report that. I don't want to get too far ahead of my skis, but the mainstream media will report that as sectarian violence, utter chaos. President Trump should have never have facilitated this regime change. Everybody's killing everybody. No, no, no. That's not what you'll be seeing. What you'll be seeing is the Paul Reveres and the George Washingtons of the Iranian people standing up, taking their country back, executing the bad guys, and then rising up and self-determining. And that's why we don't need to put our fingers in the "we'll pick your new leader" pot. They want Reza, they can have Reza, but I don't think they're going to. I think the city of London should get out of the business of picking their leaders. And so I think that's where we are. But the drone, nah, that's not the sign to me of a bigger war.
It was just a hook for the beginning.
It was a nice hook. It was sensational. I didn't mean to be a wet blanket. Sorry.
Yeah, no, to get it works to get people to comment and like and listen to the whole thing, because we're at the end. Oh my God. Mel, over to you.
I think that the operation of the International Intelligence Organization, that is the CIA, MI6, is a big part of this. I think it's being dismantled. I think a lot of what we haven't seen Ratcliffe a lot. I think a lot of what Tulsi Gabbard is doing. We have to remember what really happened in the 70s in Iran, how involved Brzezinski and other people were in that, not to mention intelligence. So for me, I look at Venezuela, Iran, and multiple other places that are places where there are multi-layers of operations going on. And frankly, it seems to me that again, the CIA has done a lot of work around the world, particularly, we know that John Brennan ran the Saudi Arabian CIA, post for many, many years, also during 9/11. And I think that there are many people in the rogue intelligence community that have profited off of what happened to Iran, and have propped up this regime for many, many years. I know people think that it's a powerful theocracy, but I don't see how they would have lasted this long if there wasn't the international banking cartel. Now, also, Iran is one of the only countries that isn't part of that. So you can look at that too as something. But I feel like finally the Iranian people might be on the cusp of freedom. And I think that there's more people right now than ever. I mean, so many have been murdered. They don't even cover it on the news. They're ignoring it. It seems like there's a intelligence operation that is also being dismantled both in Iran and Venezuela that comes back to us. At least I think the CIA and the rogue operators from MI6 and stuff. So I think some of these people that have been behind the scenes manipulating wars and endless wars for profit are being cut off. And like Bassett put out about all the money that he was watching leave Iran, that money is, again, on the radar of the US, but how much of that money is bribes and manipulation and keeping things in place? I think stopping the money, again, when it comes to also Iran, will be a big deal. I know we've had sanctions, but I still believe that Turkey, Qatar, Egypt, the idea that all these people are praising Trump only says to me that I think the ISIS and a lot of the militants and all of these terrorist groups and everything are also instruments of the intelligence community and the banking cartel. So I just think as more and more people are taken off the board, we're going to see freedom rise because it has been kept down purposely, I think, largely through an international intelligence operation that has been focused on endless wars for profit and controlling nations by design. And what I think is happening is that the people that have been behind the scenes running that operation are one by one being taken out, both in Venezuela and in Iran. So we will see. But I do believe that the Iranian people, we should certainly be supporting them. I had many, many friends, particularly when I lived in LA for 22 years, that loved their homeland and fled in fear because they were Christian or whatever else, that would go back to Iran. I mean, their love of that nation, and it's very sad because a lot of people don't know what happened to Iran. That it was like a thriving, cosmopolitan, highly educated. Like what happened to Iran clearly was some kind of operation that wasn't about the theology of the regime, but was about something else. And I think largely it was about the international banking cartel and international intelligence that works for them, keeping it in chaos. But that's my feeling. But I feel for the first time, the Iranian people, with the support of the world, have a shot at getting their country back.
Okay. I'm a bit puzzled by all of this, right? It's one of the things.
Really?
Sorry, Blaine?
Really?
Yeah, I'm a bit puzzled by this. Because, so first, my father was Shia Muslim, Orthodox Shia Muslim, and he revered the Ayatollah Khomeini. And when the Ayatollah Khomeini came to 1979, my dad was really, really thrilled. My mum, by the way, is very liberal Sunni. Both have passed away. And my wife is Christian and my brother's wife is Jewish, and we are a people of the book. And I love all the peoples.
Me too.
We are a family of the book.
There you go.
I don't get it. Like, I'm not arguing and disputing that what you're saying isn't the case, but Iran is antithetical to the West. It's positioned itself as against the West, as against the great Satan, the United States, as against NATO, as against Israel. Isn't Trump just doing Israel's dirty work? Because what Israel wants is Iran dismembered. Why not go after and give freedom to people in Saudi Arabia or people in Britain even? We could do with some freedom here.
MBS has designs on that, although his methods may not be really appropriate, but he would like to reform Saudi a bit. Let me get to your description of the Iranian people.
Yeah,
they're not an Islamic
Iran,
state.
The state. Yeah,
they're not an Islamic state. They are predominantly Zoroastrian, Christian, and Buddhist.
Right.
That's what they're made up of, and they are. If you go back 50 years, if you go back 80 years, the Iranian people. Hold on. The Iranian people have been very close to the United States. They have been very well educated population, great contributors to the engineering world, very good business people. And so what happens is the Brits, the city of London, originally in the 50s, puts the family of the Shah in place to keep things under wraps. This is a kind of a pseudo thing. And then we get to the place where the French intel services decide, well, now it's time for an Islamic state, because now we're really going to have a wedge to keep the Middle East down, and we'll keep complete control of the Middle East, whether it's going to be through the Israel-British relationship or it's going to be on the Iranian side. And what happens out of that? We get the hostage crisis, and then the mainstream media goes to work to sell the retail crap that people were sold. They never went more than a millimeter deep into the story to find out what was really going on. The Iranian people, no less than 6 times, have made an attempt at their freedom, and no US president was going to have it. In fact, President Obama, at the beginning of his administration, went from warning us in the military, hey, we're going to be at war with Iran, so get ready, to, hey, here's 1.8 billion in cash. Can you make that last for a while before I get you your next offering? In other words, the poor people of Iran have been manipulated. Well, this is why they're not going to stop this time. There's no food, there's no water, there's no currency, and studies will show that when you have nothing to lose, then there's no problem in going and taking out your government. And here's the other thing that's interesting. People are like, well, because President Trump didn't do anything, the Iranians have stopped the uprising, and President Trump kind of blunted this whole thing. Hold up. I just told you that I have it on pretty good authority that the Iranians have been in negotiations with President Trump throughout the better part of last weekend. And so they're also not doing anything to raise hell with missiles, or except for the errant drone that we talked about today. Doesn't that sound like a ceasefire while you're trying to talk things through? So, in other words, couldn't President Trump, through operatives on the ground, just turn the uprising on back in 5 hot seconds? That's exactly what he could do. And so, if you see in Natanz and you see in Isfahan and Tehran, the besieged headquarters blow up, fights back on, get on it. That's exactly what can happen, and that's what's been portrayed to the mullahs. So it's, look, you're in between the dog and the fire hydrant. You're leaving. Do you want to leave dead, or do you want to leave with some cash and prizes, and you got to go?
Right. Okay. It seems like a really, really dangerous game, because how do you
Yes.
do this? How do you do this without blowing up the Middle East or blowing up the oil markets?
Oh
Just that.
yeah, and how do you keep your relationship with China in that fragile place where it's at, and with Russia in that fragile place where it's at? And that's why the national security strategy is so brilliant. It's really ARC: America, Russia, China. We don't love each other, but we'll work with each other.
Yeah. And then Putin saying that they're not going to come to Iran's defense.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that was the one thing that made me feel like, okay, things are behind the scenes being worked out once Putin put that out. And we got to be honest. I mean, again, there is a financial aspect, a global financial aspect to this. You even go back to Wesley Clark and his when he said they're going to go after all these countries, all the ones without the central bank, essentially. And Iran was last on that list. So again, I just think that the post-World War II manipulation on the global stage is being reorganized, and in that reorganization, everything is being shuffled around. I really do believe a lot of this has to do with money and the financial system and the control of the financial system, because some weird things are happening in Iraq too. I just, what I am hoping and what I am trying to, what I think I'm seeing is kind of a let's let's tone down the involvement of the United States, God willing, in that region, and give the people in that region more power. Because when you hear the head of, Egypt coming out and saying, if it wasn't for Donald Trump, we wouldn't even be here. And then you hear, another person coming out and saying that. And then you hear, the head of Turkey, Erdogan, saying we can deal with this. We're going to deal with this when they're talking about Gaza or whatever else. I just would very much like to see the United States and others allow those countries to work on a better way forward. I mean, I'm not sure what's going on with this board of peace, but it does seem that they're all in on it. I don't know. Do you guys think that they're all kind of, because it looks like he's going to have Egypt and Jordan and or maybe not Jordan, Egypt and Turkey run the rebuilding of Gaza. Of course, they always wanted that port. I don't think that war was about anything other than, that maritime avenue, right, and that port and whatever's there. But it seems like, I mean, I don't know. It just seems like that the people in that region are going to have to start to step up and be more proactive in peaceful solutions going forward without the United States or the City of London or the bankers interfering. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's just what I
I
see.
think you're
Blaine,
right.
before
You're
you come
looking
in,
at it.
sorry, Blaine, before
Mhm.
you come in, I just want to say, because on the board of peace, there's the other Muslim nations that I remember. Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, Indonesia, and Pakistan.
Right.
Both
Right.
very populous Muslim nations. Pakistan with
Right.
nuclear weapons, and certainly Pakistan and possibly Indonesia, very hostile to the
Mhm.
Zionist expansion into the West Bank and Gaza.
Right.
So that's quite a balancing act. Blaine,
Yeah,
please.
and it doesn't just stop with Gaza. Look, this is an
Mm-mm.
effective council of rivals, which, by the way, is another signature Trump thing. It's a council of rivals where these people have power and influence to make different things happen in the world. And they're connected to a lot of the world's wealthiest, but just through
Yeah.
this different format. And what you've done is you're looking at eliminating the UN. You're making the UN redundant. You're not going to have 13 ribbons of bureaucracy and trillions of dollars stolen, but at the same time, it's good to go ahead and invite even bad guys to your table like Tony Blair to look him in the eyeballs and say, "Hey, look, here's the thing. Um, you're not going to have World War III. You're
Right.
not going to do this, have this war or that war." And what the president's pursuing now through the Abraham Accords in that region and then different formats and others is that the people who matter in this world, where real politic and real power happens, well, they'll get their debate space. The world's most powerful nation's not going to change. Russia's power is not going to change. Neither will China's going to change its political structure here very soon, but their basic power and momentum won't change. And so, what a great efficient way to get about your diplomacy, devolving yourself of really truly legions and millions of deep staters around the world who effectively were just watering at the public trough, most of it at U.S. taxpayers' expense.
Exactly.
And that's the direction we're going to go in. Well, if we're not going to have war in the Middle East, gosh, maybe we can make a few shekels along the way, and everybody. I mean, think about this: Lebanon coming back to be the Paris of the Middle East.
Oh, I
Um,
know. I
it's
would love
just
that.
the opportunities
Exactly.
for human development, the opportunities for prosperity and peaceful living. Yes, I understand Israeli politics don't like this very much, and you know what? President Trump could care less.
Yeah, I
They're
agree.
it, those who say he's a shill in the box for Bibi Netanyahu probably haven't seen Bibi Netanyahu's closet door, where on the other side of that closet door there's a picture of President Trump with three darts in it. They don't get along that well. So I guess I look. This is a very risky gambit. I mean, but we're in such bad shape on in the world commons right now because of the City of London and the debt balloon and their Ponzi scheme is blowing up. Um, you have we're going to have to be taking these risks, and it may not work out. But um, I I am at a loss for an alternative. I think I think this is what's got to happen.
Well, what's
And
working?
if we want to end the war for profit model that has been
Yeah.
the bread and butter of the City of London and the military industrial complex, then we have to encourage people that maybe were intimidated or manipulated by foreign powers to take responsibility for their own backyard. And I think that's what's going on is that slowly but surely, the people in that region have a great opportunity to end the endless wars once and for all. I mean, at least for now, that might sound a little Pollyannish, but it does seem that everyone that signed on to that board of peace was kind of in a place where they see the opportunity for the future could be very different than what it's been to now. And you know, at this point with technology and everything else that's going on, I don't see why we, the United States or the city or England or the EU, should be meddling in the Middle East when they're capable of having, I believe, they're the most capable of creating a peaceful environment in that area without us there. That's what I think.
Yes, and I think perhaps sitting Tony Blair in between these 8 Muslim nations, got Indonesia on one side, Pakistan on the other, that will effectively neuter him, I hope, right?
Oh, you
But
got to be
Yeah.
uncomfortable if you're Tony Blair sitting in that chair.
that's right. But what about
And
the
I want him
argument?
seated next to MBS. That's who I want him seated next to.
Okay, what about the argument made by Jeremy Corbyn and many others that it's really for the Palestinian people to make a determination and not these blow-ins, these, because this is just another imperialist board where other people are deciding the destiny for the Palestinians.
Well,
You know,
first,
watch.
Hamas has been running the Palestinian territory for all these years. A, B, they have, people won't admit it, but they haven't educated the people there. They haven't given them the tools to be able to govern themselves. I mean, the best thing that could happen is peaceful supporters of the Palestinian people and the territory come in and empower them with things that they don't have. Because it's my understanding that the children and the women and the people in that region, even during the entire war, that if they were not subservient to Hamas and everything that they were doing, that they really did not have any opportunity to do much outside of that territory. It just seems that the Palestinian people would be coming into it without the tools necessary to organize a future that would be prosperous and all of that. Now, I'm not saying the people that are coming in and want to build like what Jared Kushner put out there, but I am saying I think the people of the Palestinians themselves have been greatly harmed and by the lack of resources, education, good, you know, everything, food, water, safety, security. I mean, these people have been living in a, I think, from what I can see, in an environment where they need a lot of support and help, and better for it to be people, not the United States or you know, England or something, but better to be their neighbors that come in and help them. I just don't know how you unravel from, you know, 7 or whatever years of Hamas rule, and then you're going to remove Hamas, and all of these women and children have not been afforded the ability to be self-sufficient or educated or any of that. I mean, I just feel bad. I feel like the people in that territory have been kept basically in the dark. And if they're going to come into the light, it's going to be people that I believe are their neighbors that can do the best job at that. But I think we have to be honest about how they've been living in the Palestinian territory. It's horrible, but it's real. And there has to be solutions that are give them a better life and a better way forward to make that happen, I think.
Yeah, it's the I would say some of the most manipulated people on the planet for generations now have been the Palestinians through the education system that goes well back before Hamas was
Right.
even there. We got a Muslim Brotherhood issue that basically thinks it's okay to be putting an AK-47 into a 7-year-old's hands and start to
Yes.
tell them how to break down weapons and get out in the streets and what uh, intifada is all about and jihad. And so if the cycle has to be broken, and
Right.
and honestly, this is not just an Israel problem because it is an Israel problem, but it's also a Jordanian and an Egyptian problem, and as reluctant as those states have been, um, I am certain that the Kushner Witkoff team has been through those capitals to make sure that they well understand that they're going to have responsibilities in this reconstruction phase. And it's not, it's a terrible word, re-education. It's not a re-education drill as it is generational care. You're talking about
Right.
millions of broken people, and then to a lesser extent, I can tell you that Israel's got some issues that they're going to be dealing with for quite some time from being at war for infinity years. And so these are the scars. These are the scars that are going to be indelible in the Middle East for quite some time. We watched this from World War II. I mean, as a kid growing up, my dad was a World War II veteran. Um, One of the most derogatory terms you could have used with when describing a Japanese person, he thought was just fine right up into the 60s. It's indelible scars. They'll have to mend, but the important part is for us to recognize, and I'm talking to the expert here. It's a social work issue. You're going to have to apply
Yes.
very special care. You can't ignore this. All you'll do is respawn what has been, and we know what has failed. And yes, the city of London is responsible for this, but once we get their cold, dead hands off the steering wheel, well, then we have to go pick it up, and it's going to be hard work.
Yeah. And it's going to take people that they trust. And don't forget, when Arafat died and they went in, Arafat had hundreds of millions of dollars that he was not spending on the people there. We've sent billions of dollars for them to, I think, forsaken the children for now multiple decades, has been, it's going to be, I think there's a lot of healing that needs to be done, frankly. And, look, they no matter how much money we sent there, it wasn't getting to those people, as far as I know, as far as I can see. So, I mean, it's going to have to be a big humanitarian thing, but I am glad that it's hopefully not going to be the UN, and the UN will go away and maybe this new group. But like you said, Egypt and Jordan, and honestly, some of the other countries, but particularly Egypt and Jordan, can take a very, they're right there. They can take a very proactive step towards helping the people in that region get to a place where living is worthwhile, and they have the things that make, whether it's schooling or whatever else, infrastructure, coming into the modern times, technology. I do think that there's going to be people in that region that will be stepping up and stepping in. I just feel like there's a even with what we were saying about Iran, I just feel like the generation of that we are in, the three of us, there's a lot of people out there that would like to help and do something different. There was never a pathway to that. And I think right now there's a pathway for good people to get involved and not corrupt people through whatever UN agency and whatever else. I just hope to see, like you said before, the new George Washingtons, the new about America, the new people that would step up. I hope to see people step up in the Middle East that we don't even maybe know about right now, but that will have an opportunity to get involved. I just hope that they open the door to people that are committed to, and because they're everywhere, but people that are committed to loving these people back to a better life. And that's what I see the opportunity on the whole chessboard of the world right now as, is that evil is being exposed, but I also feel like good can replace it, that vacuum that they're leaving, God willing, the people that can actually make a difference in a positive direction and end the endless wars we've been at for 100+ years, will be elevated. I think that there's an opportunity right now for that to happen, particularly in the Middle East.
Yep, we need an Ibrahim Traore for the Middle East. That's what we need. Okay, and what's your take on what's happening in Israel internally? How are they responding? What's happening with support for Netanyahu? And who's waiting in the wings for Netanyahu to go, that then they're going to resume leadership?
That's a very interesting question. You've got, this is the thing in the United States. The mainstream media wants to make Israel a binary. You either support Israel or you don't support Israel. It's one or the other. You have to pick which side you're on. And if you don't pick the right side, you're an anti-Semite, and there you go.
Right.
If life were just so simple. No, Israeli politics is damn near more complicated than the UK's and the United States. And in the Knesset right now, they're fighting like hell, not for grappling for power per se, but there is a fight for a more authoritarian style of government, which currently Israel has in the Netanyahu regime. And you could say that October 7th was a cover for some of the things that they see, but it really goes back to COVID and very, very draconian measures that were taken back then. But what I think, and this is where President Trump runs afoul, I think, of Israeli politics, at least with the Netanyahu administration, is um, he does not want to see a major theater war break out. He does not. His idea of success with Iran is not to vaporize it, and he's doing everything he can to bring this down to a dull roar. Well, guess what happens if you follow what's going on in the Knesset? Guess what happens when these wars stop and Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis have lost their source of funding and slowly fade off into the sunset? Well, Israel and its leaders and its population want to return to this thing called October 7th. And they want to return to this thing about, well, what the hell happened there and how did it happen? If you've got space assets, multi-intelligence services, if a feral cat goes across that fence, we're all going to know about it within seconds. And all of a sudden, now it's wide open and nobody can really answer the questions. Those are the places that the Israeli people are going to want to come back to. I've talked to enough Israeli journalists who are said, "Oh, this is not done. Once this is done." So if you're Benjamin Netanyahu and you've already got some corruption charges being lobbed your way, what are you incentivized to do? Keep the music going? Because when the music stops, you're going to be getting some very uncomfortable questions.
And I believe that there has to be a global reckoning for COVID. We can't let it end.
Me
but,
too. Or 9/11.
Right.
I'm not letting that go.
But I know, me neither. But I have to say, particularly what was going on in Israel during COVID was, I mean, extraordinary. And there has been no, there has at least till now, the whole world was affected, but Israel was extraordinarily draconian and insane, and everyone had to get the shots, and we don't even know what shots they got. Remember, Israel's the size of New Jersey. You know, the Palestinian territories, if you look at New Jersey, the size of Atlantic City, and what that small piece of land has been through on both sides. I just don't see how Netanyahu continues. I know so many people that are done with it. They kind of need to look at their whole history at this point. You know, it was there before the Rothschilds did the Balfour Declaration and all of that. Just like with America, I think we have to be honest about our history, all of our countries, and kind of work towards something. But I do think that the reckoning of COVID has not yet happened on a global scale. And there's going to be, I believe, a big reckoning for COVID in Israel. I mean, really, we don't even know how many people, what they took there, how many people died. Like, none of the information has been come out of there either. But I know that many, many people after that were totally against Netanyahu and that government, and they basically haven't had a say since. So I still think there's a big reckoning coming for that as well.
Yeah, I think we are in momentous times, and this year has only just started. There is more to come, which is why it's really, really important that everybody follow Blaine on X and Dangerous Intellectuals podcast, and Mel K on Rumble, and her on X, and me on X, and on this channel. Subscribe, comment, like, all that business. I look forward to speaking to you all soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.